Elan,
Yes.
you guys are going on Thursday?
Yeah.
What time? 4? You there?
Yeah.
You going at 4? I can't hear you.
Oh, darn it. Can you hear me now, Mike?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we are going at 4.
Okay, I might go to that.
Cool.
Because as far as I know, there's some original illustrations and stuff in there, right?
Yes, there are. So I'm excited.
And it's golden books, right?
Golden books, yep.
So if anybody in here is an illustrator, actually, I don't care what you are. It doesn't matter. Go see that show. It's at Fullerton Museum. And it's a golden book show specifically, right?
Yep.
So if
Specifically,
anybody
yep.
knows those golden books are a bunch of kids' books and they had all these great illustrations in them, I'd go see that. Fullerton Museum has a lot of great shows. Although I think they're trying to get rid of Fullerton Museum, aren't they?
I think so, but I think there might be a petition. I'm not sure.
Why would they get rid of it?
I don't know, because it's awesome.
Right? That's where I saw an ad.
So what? Hey, John, what'd you see?
Alex Ross.
They had an Alex Ross show there?
Yeah, they did.
Wow, I didn't even know that. God, that sucks. I would have liked to have seen that. I like that guy's stuff.
Yeah, like
You're cutting in and out.
a couple years ago, all his stuff.
I saw a Linedecker show there, like, I don't know how long ago it was, 15 years ago or something.
Yeah, I heard about that one. I didn't get to
It was
see that.
unbelievable. I mean, it was unbelievable. Plus, they used to, and I don't know if they still do this, they used to have like because there's a Fender connection there, Fender guitar connection.
Yeah.
And in the back, as you were leaving, it was super cool. They had a 61 Strat just sitting there on a stand, and you could just pick it up and play it through the amp and stuff.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, it was cool. Like, nobody does that. That's a valuable guitar, 61 Strat.
Yeah, that's weird.
Fender being from Fullerton was like so weird. Like I remember I went to Japan and like went to this guitar store and like it said like Fullerton on like some boxes and stuff, and it was like just so weird seeing like small Orange County town like all around the world because of guitars, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy. And then he formed G&L Guitars, which was over, I think it was in Corona. But we used to go to some factory. Maybe it was the Fender factory. I don't know when they moved out of there. And we used to dig through the trash and pull out old necks and stuff like that, guitar necks and stuff like that. They'd always notch them, though, so you couldn't use them. They'd notch them out. They were seconds. They'd notch them so you couldn't use them. But they were just cool. It was just cool to see it. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Am I coming through okay?
Yep.
Okay.
So far, yeah.
Yes, you are.
All right. So we should be, okay, so here's what I'm going to do this week. Today, again, just go through these little things. I have a couple of things I want to talk about before tomorrow. And then tomorrow I want to start new stuff. But what I'm going to do starting about now is that some things are going to be more involved, tutorials and things like that. So I'll usually put them up ahead of time like I will today. And then you can take a look at it tonight. I'll put whatever files are related to it for download, and then, but you'll have the tutorial the day before, okay?
Sounds good.
Because some of them are just like, I don't want to do the whole tutorial here because they're more involved and it might go on for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I don't want to do that on, in a meeting, in a class.
Yeah.
I'd rather do it where you see it the day before, and then you can have whatever questions or whatever the next day and all that. And I'll start to set that up a little bit today. And by the way, you just heard Elan. So if anybody wants to go over to that museum at 4 on Thursday, I'm going to try and go. I just got to put it on my calendar. Go. Okay. All right. Hang on. Sorry. I forgot. There's something I wanted to talk. Okay. Did you guys get the smudge brushes I put up?
Is it in the folder, Mike?
It's in the it's under announcements. Everything's always under announcements.
Oh, no.
I
Okay.
don't know if I got that. I'll double check. I've been using the Dropbox all weekend and I didn't see anything, but let me check the
I
announcement.
just put them in this morning.
Oh,
Oh,
never mind.
okay.
Then no, I have not, but I will.
Okay, so what I want to do here real quick just so you know, is
How do you add them to your?
I'm going to show you that right now. So let me share my screen. That's why I didn't give them to you, because I had to separate them out anyway. But I didn't give them to you because I wanted to talk about this so you know, because there's a couple of things around this. Okay, so here's my smudge brushes. Okay, so here's my file. Okay, now I can hear somebody typing. Here's my file right here that I gave you guys, my smudge brushes. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
So I'm going to double click that. Make sure I've got Photoshop open. Okay, I don't know. Mic is on, but that's driving me up the wall. Let me get this open. Okay, so I double clicked it, okay? Now, what it's normally going to do, the first time you click it, is it's going to go something to do with these are tool presets, but or Photoshop's going to go, I can load them as brushes. Is that okay? And you hit yes. Does that make sense? Or upload as brushes, I think it says. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, the reason for that is that these used to be put in as tool presets, which meant you didn't have previews of them. They didn't come up in your brushes. They came up in your tool presets. This is much better now because they'll just come up as brushes. They'll just look like brushes. So what they're going to look like when it loads, if I go to my brushes right here, all the way down here, let me get rid of this. All the way down here, there it is, my smudge brushes. See how it made a folder? Then if I drop this down, there's my smudge brushes. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, I'm going to take this. I could take this folder and I could drag it up wherever I want it in my, my hierarchy of brushes. I'm going to delete this right now because I normally have it up here. Here's my favorite brushes for now. Here's my smudge brushes, okay? I think that's all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 11. I usually probably use 3 of these, okay? Now, the reason I'm starting to talk about those is they're going to get really important when we get to digital painting, but they're also important for now. If I made a selection of something like smoke or something like that, and then I drop it in and it had that hard edge, I might come in with some of my smudge brushes and soften that edge a little bit. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yep.
The other thing is, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I think that's okay. Hang on. If I came in here, so I have this blank document, okay? Actually, let me go through what we have today first, and then I'll go through this. There's a couple things I want to go through today. So just remember, when you double click those smudge brushes, they're going to come up and it's going to ask you to load them as brushes, say yes, however it says that. Okay, so let's go here. All right, does anybody have any big questions right now?
Mike, I'm kind of running into some roadblocks for the poster.
Okay. What's a roadblock?
I'm just having trouble on figuring out what to add to it. I sent you the file. I put it on the Google Drive this morning for you to look at.
Okay, I went to the Google Drive like right before this class, and it wasn't there because I don't see it. I don't see it in my downloads right now. I'm looking at them.
Got it. I put it on June 22nd, that folder.
June 22nd.
I'll drop it in again.
Well, hang on a minute. Isn't today June 22nd? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so why is it not there? Because I'm always getting people in this class, they go, oh, I put it in there. And it's like, no, you didn't. It's not there. You know what I mean? So you're saying, what time did you say you put it in there?
Yeah. Okay, how about now?
What time did you
Before
say you
10.
put it in there?
Before 10?
It wasn't in there before 10. I downloaded everything.
Okay.
So it has to be in there before 10, okay? Because now here we are, we're slowing down the class talking about this, correct?
Yeah.
That's my point.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and if you put it in there, it's in there. So let's see. This is the last time I'm going to go in and look for an old file. Well, wait, what name is it under? Oh, you got it under a different name. I do have it. Okay, so you put it under Bernard Poster. I don't know what Bernard is.
Oh, that's the main character of.
Okay, make sure, and this is important, whenever you name a file, it's your name as it appears on my roster.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, because I didn't know that was your file. Because I was looking for that name, by the way, in my attendance. I go, who's Bernard? Now, I should have looked at it on Google because it'll tell me, but it just makes it easier if you just tell me your name. Okay, so what are you saying now?
So I'm just struggling, trying to figure out what else I can add.
Well, right now, it's not a coherent design because it's sort of him plastered on there, hard edge at the bottom, then another idea behind it, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and then why, and I know you're playing around with filters and stuff, and that's fine. But, you know, like this, I don't know, I'd probably find their logo. Is that their logo?
No, those are just placeholders.
Oh, okay. I think this could be more important. But okay, let me, hang on. I think, I mean, right now it just feels like it's about this one person. I'm not getting the vibe from like that show or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, okay.
So maybe, I mean, if you want to go the montage route, I don't know. Because now you're making a statement with this sort of pixelated idea. And is there an idea behind that?
Yeah, the idea was take those glass tiles and create the effect of like that pixel explosion. But instead of the pixels, it'll be those tiles from his head and shoulder slowly like fading into the poster. And I was gonna try to figure out how to use those tiles and put you know, characters' images on those tiles, but I figured these would.
Okay, if you wanted to have, can you hear me?
Be too small, and so that was the roadblock. Yeah, I can hear you.
One thing you can do if you want to, I think you said something about fading it from the normal person to the pixelated thing, right?
Yeah.
An easy way to probably do that is just to put the original image of him on top, and then make a layer mask, and then you could, you know, gradient fade it, you know, to the one underneath, and it'll gradient from the image to the pixelated version, right?
Yeah.
So that's an easy solve. That's just a layer mask.
Okay.
As far as, you know, maybe instead of trying to put the people in the small, you know, tiles or whatever, maybe make that a design element where, and I'm just going to half-ass this, where it's like, and I don't know if this will work, you'll have to try it. Or maybe I have a piece of this. I'm just going to use this. And I could just use the same image and make the tiles bigger probably. And then maybe this becomes a design element that gets bigger somehow, and then you can put your images inside of that. That makes sense?
Yeah, that does.
You know, so it's this fragmented idea, but make it look cool and designy. I would make sure that this doesn't just fade off like that. Like maybe this is, because isn't that show like, doesn't it have a Western theme?
That's
Does it?
the main park, and then they have other parks too. So the main like theme park, but then there's like Japanese Shogun World, and then there's like a theme where about like you're in France during the Nazi Germany occupation. But Westworld is like the main
Okay, so well, hang on a sec.
one.
Hang on. So maybe you do something like, Hang on, I gotta find it. Of course, everything slows down as soon as I get online with you guys. Okay, so maybe, let's see. And this is going to be pixelated, but oh well. Maybe, oops. I mean, this is an old movie poster trick. Everybody uses it. And then maybe this guy fades out to this bottom part. I'd have to make a selection. And actually, this would be a good, I'm going to show you guys, tomorrow we're going to start talking about something that'll fit into this pretty well. But for now, just to comp it real quick, I'm going to go to see if I can get this to work. Actually, yeah. I'm going to put a layer mask on this. It's on overlay, that's why it's not working. Put it on normal. I want a softer brush. So maybe this fades out down here to these guys on horseback. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, it's a real common thing. I can probably find it. This is why I tell you to look at this guy, because he's kind of done all this stuff. Um, Got one more. I know he's done this. Hang on. No. There you go. Sort of like this. Sort of like this. It's going to pixelate, but. See how he's got this down here?
Yeah.
Like that kind of idea. You'll see it in a lot of Westerns, like where it's like the big, just like he has it here with the big head shapes. And then down to the bottom, it's just riders on the horizon. It's a, yeah, do it all the time for like Westerns and stuff. But he's kind of doing it back here if you look, right?
Yeah.
So just like that kind of thing, start putting those things together that are elements of the show, you know, and then you can kind of fade them into each other and that kind of thing. And this, I could, you know, actually what we're going to do that I'm going to upload today will kind of explain to you in a good way how to separate this out to put it into your image. Okay?
Okay.
If you want to do that kind of thing. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, who else has questions? Because I want to go through those first.
Professor, I have something.
Okay.
Hello. I changed my concept, and I just wanted to make sure if it was okay with you. Just wanted to check in with you with that. Hello?
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, so where did these drawings come from?
I literally just got that off of the internet.
Yeah, I don't mind that, but the problem is that what's the concept?
So I switched it up entirely to Stella Rosa, and I'm like for alcohol now, just because like my target audience is women, specifically between the ages of 21 to 36. So that's
Yeah.
what I was trying to go for. And it's just Stella Rosa. I mean, I was looking at their ads and they don't really do things like this. So I was just
Now,
trying
what Stella Rosa, because I did some stuff with Stella Rosa years ago.
to.
I was just doing stuff with their brand.
Mhm.
Their audience, what did you say the demographic was?
I was thinking 21 to 36-year-old.
That seems about right. It's very much a sort of mom culture, kind of. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Sort of a housewife.
Is it?
Yeah, it's really what they target.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why back then they used to do a lot of God, I'm trying to think of it now. They did a lot of this sort of like there's sort of a jokey. There's sort of a jokey wine culture. Like you see, I saw it a lot when there was a show on called Cougar Town for a while, and it sort of tapped into that sort of. I don't know if it's stay-at-home moms or homemakers or whatever, but it was like this weird jokey wine culture, and it was about that age range you were saying, and I remember I noticed it. Like I'd noticed that culture before, but I really noticed it when that show, because I never watched that show. Was doing an ad campaign for the next season, right? And every ad campaign or every commercial for that show that season or leading up to that season was like jokey wine jokes that were super not funny. Okay. So it was sort of like, I'm just going to have one glass of wine, and they'd have a glass this big. It was like that kind of stuff, you know, or those stupid products where it's like, it's a wine bottle, but the top of it's a glass or something like that. So I'm just having one glass. You know, it's like that kind of jokey culture. So anyway, they were doing a lot of that kind of stuff. I'd have to go back and look at exactly how they did it. And then just a lot of product shot driven stuff.
Yeah, I noticed that.
But what are you telling me here?
I mean, like, just that you need more Stella Rosa. Just trying to like push.
You got to give me an idea. Like, why are those pole dancers?
They are. I just found that on the internet.
But you're gonna get. I can tell you right now, you're gonna get in all kinds of trouble if you put pole dancers on there.
Yeah.
Because we are not. And look, it doesn't matter what your line of thinking is, because my line of thinking is not. I can't stand all this politically correct stuff. I can't stand it. But I have to live by it, whether it's in this classroom or if I was working on a product. You know, because I look at stuff and I go, why do you have to be so conservative with it? And then you have to be so, and especially right now, you got to be super careful with how you're messaging. You know what I mean? Because if number one, it wouldn't be a reflection on you, it'd be a reflection on the brand, and the brand, people will go after the brand and go, oh, so what are you saying, that women are, you know, pole dancers or what? You know, that would just not fly, you know?
Okay.
And you could probably give me examples where people have done that and it does fly, but this is kind of a really mainstream brand. So it's a little bit dangerous.
Okay.
Plus, I don't know the concept. I need to know the concept. You know what I mean? Like, if you're telling me, like, hey, man, if your life's like, the way I would read this is I would read that your life's not wild enough. That's how I would read it. You know, you need to drink more wine, man. Get loose, and you know, that's how I would read it. Okay, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing, but I think with Stella. Hang on a sec.
So it's safer to be a bit more conservative when you're doing these
I think
things.
Okay, it's really weird right now because it's sort of upside down. The culture, I mean, I don't want to get too far into this because it's not an advertising class, but I do think it's important. The culture's sort of upside down right now. Okay? Can you guys hear me? Or am I frozen? You hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay. It used to be that young people we're making old guys like me outraged by their behavior, right? You guys are pissing all the norms that I grew up, all that kind of stuff, right? It's just normal. I hate your music, get off my lawn, all that kind of stuff, right? And now it's upside down where I look at your culture, I look at younger culture, and I go, you guys are so conservative. Remind me of grandparents. You know what I mean? Like they're so scared of everything. They're so scared to talk about anything, so scared to have an opinion that I look at and I go, and the music doesn't offend me, it bores me. You know what I mean? I look at like the culture that you guys are in right now and I go, it looks like my grandmother's culture. Like you guys' culture looks so conservative to me. Your entertainment looks super conservative to me. It looks like a Vegas show. It looks like an old variety show from the 70s. It's just super boring to me. And I shouldn't be bored by your culture. I should be super annoyed by your culture. Does that make sense? But I mean, you have to look at those things, like when you're operating in a world where you're kind of, you have to look at it. And you have to, and I know it's hard to see that from, a younger person's perspective, because younger people are usually wilder than old people, blah, 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 on and on and on. But you got to look at it and just go, okay, who's the market for this? This is a big, giant company. They are not going to make big, crazy moves, especially right now, because all these brands now are having to rebrand themselves because of what's going on right now, which is going to cost millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, okay? Not only do they have to pay to rebrand everything, they've got to retool everything. They've got to, those brands, those pancake syrup brands and all that stuff, they have to retool everything because their packaging is molded in the shape of those characters. You know what I mean? It's not just it's going to cost a fortune, all right, for all of these people to rebrand. Hang on. See, like they're right now, when I just went onto their website, they have instead of saying, are you 21? Are you not 21? It says, I'm not 21, or it says, let's celebrate, right? Like their whole thing is that this kind of thing. See what I mean? Relaxing,
yeah.
the spa ideas. And then I would go here. First thing I would do, I mean, it's the obvious, but I'd go here and I'd go, okay, what's their story? Here's their story, right? Because the first thing I want to do if I'm working on anything, and it doesn't matter if it's a concept design, an advertising design, an illustration, it doesn't matter. First thing you do is your research, and the first thing you do, if you're talking to the person, whoever you're talking to, if it was this company and I was having a meeting with them, which I probably did back then, I don't remember. First thing I want to know is I'm like, what makes you guys different? Or what do you think makes you guys different? And they're going to give me their take on it because I want their take on it. And I'm going to go, who do you think your audience is? How well do you think you penetrate that audience with your advertising? On and on and on, right? If it's a concept design, it's the same conversation, only they're giving you a brief and you're going, what do you mean by Western influences, Old West influences in the frontier? Because we're talking about medieval times, how is that connecting? You know what I mean? Or how do you see it connecting? I got to know whoever it is that I'm working for or with, what their take on it is, right? And again, it doesn't matter where you're at in the food chain, you're always answering to somebody, okay? Michael Eisner or Bob Iger had to answer to the stockholders, right? Or the shareholders. So everybody has to answer to somebody, okay? So, and when I ask you, like, what's the concept? If you can't give me a simple, it's this, you're in trouble with your concept.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You need to go, means this and this. And I think it hits this target because of this. You can never go into, and I don't care what it is, it could be advertising or whatever, never ever go into a meeting where you're presenting your work and somebody goes, hey, I kind of like that. What's your thinking behind it? And you go, I just think it looks cool. You're dead in the water as soon as you say that. Because they want a reason, and it's not just BS. They want that reason because they want to know that your ideas are going to resonate with people. And it matters, you know what I mean? Like I've said when I was doing toys, I go, if we're not having fun, it resonates in the product. You know what I mean? If we're all sitting here and we're miserable, our toys are probably going to feel kind of miserable. You know what I mean? I want them to go out in the world and they resonate that we had a lot of fun making them. Does that make sense?
It does.
And, people can argue with me about that, but I think it's BS. So when you go look at the old, and I probably said this, when you go look at the old Pixar movies, I would look at the old Pixar movies and go, they look like they had a blast making that movie. See a DreamWorks movie and I go, looks like nobody had any fun making that movie. You know what I mean? Then when I went over and worked at DreamWorks or did some work over at DreamWorks, I went, oh yeah, this place sucks. It's boring. And then if you go over to Pixar, it's fun. I mean, it's true. Now, I think that's changing. I think DreamWorks makes better movies now, but at first they were really not good. Okay.
Okay.
Give me a strong concept, and then I don't want to just see one image kind of thrown in there because I want a little more work.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was trying to go for something different because I was looking
That's
at like
fine.
Rosa ads. But like you said, I think I should, what is it? Be realistic in that sense and go for the
No,
target.
yeah, you can go for something totally different, but the way I would do that, if I was going to do that, because I always did that, okay? I always went after innovation and try to scale up things or whatever, however I could do that, okay? Now, I wasn't an advertiser, but I would look at their, okay, so there's always obvious things that I see when I look, like Stella Rosa, I look at it and go, you guys, you know, and then I look at it and go, does this advertising work? I mean, if it's working gangbusters, why mess with it, right? But I always look at it and go, aren't you tired of this? Like, this isn't very interesting advertising. Why don't you try this? You know what I mean? And I'll come up with a couple ideas that will still fit their brand,
Okay.
but is like a different take. And the danger with being younger is that a lot of times younger people want to do edgy stuff, okay? Which sometimes could be great, but most of the time, they're not going to go for that. I mean, they could potentially, if they went with something really edgy, they could potentially be destroying their brand. And they're scared to death of that. If they put out an advertising campaign that everybody hates or everybody perceives as sexist, let's say, right? Or just tone deaf to the culture right now, that could really damage your brand. Potentially could damage it forever, okay? So they're thinking about that and they're scared of that. Okay. So yeah, you want to come in and do something innovative within, you know, their demographic and what they're going to be a little bit comfortable with. Might push them a little out of their comfort zone, but because anything outside of this advertising they're doing is going to push them out of their comfort zone. Anything, because this is what they do, you know. See, Celebrate. It was all this kind of stuff. I remember that Celebrate stuff now.
Yeah. That's all I see.
I mean, if you look at it, it's pretty generic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's pretty
is.
generic. I mean, there's nothing really interesting on this website to me.
Yeah, there is. And I was looking over
But
it.
look at they had a certain take on it, and I don't remember what it was. I think it was mostly this sort of Celebrate idea, partying with your girlfriends. You know, it was very much a female brand at that time. I don't know if it still is, but that was their target, you know. And we sold it, and they sold the crap out of it, as I remember. It was actually a pretty good brand to have, because that's when I was doing packaging, you know. And so we deal with all these big brands, repackage them and other things and stuff like that. And as I recall, I think it sold really well. Okay. So sometimes I look at that and go, okay, I hate that, but there's a huge market for it. And so what if I hate it? If it sells good, then I like it, right? Because at the end of the day, when you're working for a company, you want to make sure that even if you hate the company, you want to make sure that company stays healthy because that company signs your paycheck, right? You guys hear me? Okay. All right. So just give me a quick, be able to give me a 2-line, or give yourself a 2-line sentence as to what your idea is, and then boom, execute it.
Okay. Thank you for the feedback.
What's that?
Yeah. Thank you for feedback.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys hear me okay now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Okay. So who else?
Mike, I have a question. I can't download the brushes.
That I don't know how to solve.
What? Oh no. I will say I pulled it and downloaded it from the announcements, and then it wanted me to extract it, and I did that. And then when I try to download it, it does this cloud converter thing, and then I tried to pull it into Photoshop.
If you unzipped it, it should be downloaded. That means it's downloaded. That means it's on your computer.
Yeah, it is. It's in a folder.
Okay.
So what do I do with the folder?
What are you on? You on Windows or Mac?
Windows.
Okay, that's a little different for me. On a Mac, all you do is double click the zip and it automatically extracts it.
Oh.
Is anybody on Windows? Is there different? Is it a right click thing or anything on Windows? I don't know. Anybody know?
Yeah, you can.
I just double clicked and mine went straight into Photoshop. No conversion, no nothing.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I extracted mine and just double clicked the extracted folder, and then it automatically would go into my Photoshop because it's an ABR file and Photoshop recognizes
ABR,
that.
right, right. So there's a
Yeah.
folder here, so if I click on it.
I didn't even have to unzip, so both should work.
Oh wow, you
Okay.
didn't have to unzip? That's interesting.
That's
No,
cool.
sir. Straight to downloads and double click.
I had to go to the brushes section and import it, but like that was it.
That's another way to do it.
Yeah, you could do that.
Okay, I'll try
Because
that.
either way, you're importing it. So,
Mm-hmm.
hey,
All right.
John.
Right.
Me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Believe it or not, I think you're the only John in here.
That's rare, but I wouldn't disagree.
Okay, so I'm looking at these two. This one and this one, right?
Yeah, this one the one of him with the golden cross in the back is my favorite.
Yeah, I like that one too.
I
kinda-
like that, John.
Thank you.
I think that, and I was going to talk about this anyway.
Please.
So let's go. This would be a good spot for my, hang on. For my, well, maybe I can, for my lighting thing, but let's just try this.
Yeah, I hand painted
I
the
want to talk
lighting.
about this anyway, you guys. So let's take, let's just take this one. This is fine. Another thing you can do here, it's another really simple thing. Of course, now I can't find my folder. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to look at, let me see what I can find here. I've got some files here I actually stumbled on this morning, but I think they're relevant to this. Maybe this. Maybe this. Now, there's a bunch of ways I can do that. Okay, number one, I drag that in from the desktop, so you can see right here, it's got that little smart object thing we talked about. So I'm going to right-click the bar and go rasterize layer. Now it's fine.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to put this behind here, behind everything. Now, I could do it over top of things. And again, I could just go through my layers and start finding some cool, like, distressed overlay things.
Okay, yeah.
Like that. Or,
Oh yeah, some of those are pretty cool.
this, and then I could go pull it back a little bit, whatever, right?
Okay.
But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way to the back. And then this could be a spot where I relight it using the lighting thing we were having problems with, you know?
Okay, yeah.
Where I do that kind of thing. Again, you know, I could pull it back because that'll give you some texture in the background and something going on back there, right?
Totally makes sense, yeah.
And then I might find or create or whatever. Let's see, what do I have? This one has a vignette, which is kind of cool. So maybe this one I could put on top. Now, another thing,
Okay.
when you're doing this kind of thing, you also want to look at, hang on. Oh, that almost ratios up just right.
Right, just enough to be annoying.
Wow, just right there. Actually, it did.
Oh,
Okay,
perfect.
so there's a couple things here. Sometimes, now this has color, right?
Yes.
Now let's play around with it. So let's go back to our overlay. Again, I got to rasterize this. So rasterize layer, which is also under layers, rasterize layer. I'm going to pick that. And again, I'm going to go through my overlays because I want to see if it, let's go bigger. Oops, hang on. I want to see if with the color, if that actually does anything cool, because sometimes it does. What I like about this is that the center part is already knocked out for me. It's lighter.
Mm-hmm.
So I could just get some kind of burnt edges a little bit. Like that's actually kind of cool. But now here I could come in here and go, okay, I'm going to make a layer mask. again, get a soft brush. My opacity's already knocked down. Maybe come in here and make sure this is
I'm black.
black and white. Oop. Why is that not letting me? There we go. You know, maybe I could knock out some of this
Okay.
that way, or another thing I might do, because I kind of like the color in that, but I just don't want it obscuring this, obviously.
Yeah.
So
And a lot of horror movies don't want to give a full reveal on the cover, so it'd be cool to kind of mask him out a little.
yeah, especially that kind of movie, because that movie was so like, you cannot explain that movie in a poster. You can't.
That's why I'm having trouble with the montage.
It's super weird, right? So I'm gonna go. That's hard light and keep going.
Yeah, yeah.
Just seeing what I got, but that one's actually kind of cool right there. That's cool.
Gives it a little more, just a little something to look at behind.
You'll start seeing this crap all the time, by the way. So
it's not so dead.
Back here, I'm gonna go. That's hard light, whatever that. Not just divide. Hue. That's actually kind of cool. That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then I could come back in here, by the way, and I could go. This is kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit. We're going to talk about this more later. But if I want to put a little more color back into that, then I could put this probably on color, wherever that is, right there. And I could pick a color. Let's say blue for the hell of it. Get me a brush. And I could paint back into this however I want to do that, right? And again, I could overlay that, and then I could pull this back and start to hint it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is, let me turn that off. And also, by the way, when I have this, then I could go, okay, that's clearly too blue. I could come here and go, what about if I desaturate that? More like that. Or maybe I go through the color spectrum and go, what works better? Right?
Yes.
So on and so forth, right? So let's turn that off. But here I might go, that color is affecting the overlay too much. So now I could go here and go back to hue saturation and just desaturate it, get the color out of it. And now I'll get a bunch of different types of overlays over it without the color influencing the overlay, like that.
Okay, so you can retain that kind of goldish cross look.
Well, I can, yeah, because now the overlay is just, it's not influencing color, it's just influencing the texture.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
So you see how that pushes it up, having something in the background?
Definitely.
And then like I could go, and I'm just making this up, obviously. But
I like how it's going so far.
I could go, let's see. Now, a lot of this, as we're going further and further forward, it'll be a lot more of us just sort of creating our own imagery and all that kind of stuff. Or really manipulating it,
Yeah.
Where it becomes something, well, you're already manipulating where it kind of becomes something else. Hang on.
Yeah, but what you're doing so far isn't like really altering it. It's just making more texture, making more pop.
Sure.
I kind of like that.
And, it's going to go, I'm trying to find a...
I tried to get crazier with the other ones. This one I was just trying to keep simple, but those little things make it, as you say, plus. It just pluses it up that much more.
Yeah, and it starts to make it more and more finished.
Yeah, totally.
So maybe, and this is probably a bad example, but I'm going to use it. Hang on. Well, I'm going to use it anyway. Wait, let's try this. Maybe I get some background texture going. I think it took it. I hate it when it does that. Hang on. Sometimes it won't let you download it the normal way.
Boo earns.
Reference. That's fine. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, so I found this like kind of creepy altar image. Now, normally this obviously would be assets from the movie,
Yeah.
but you know, it just feels like maybe something. Let's go even bigger. Let's go. Just to give it some. And again, I'm going to pull this. I got to rasterize this layer.
Yep.
I pulled it off my desktop. And in this case, I might let it. And again, you know, I might look for another way to overlay it where I have some environment back there. And I don't care if it's really, in this case, I don't really care if it's pretty vague. Oops, I'm on the wrong layer. Hang on. Here it is. No, here it is. I was on the wrong layer. And I might have done this before I did any texture and see if I can make it work. It needs to go probably behind your cross. I don't want to obscure that.
Okay.
But anyway, I could put just a hint of like an environment back there. Sometimes it just becomes part of the texture, and I like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just blurred out something.
Yeah, just that there's something back there. Now, again, I don't want to obscure your cross, but now I like the way it's lighting that. And it's just, again, this starts to get into the happy accident category, right? Where I'm creating an environment where I can make happy accidents, right?
Trying to break that comfort.
Yeah, I actually like, I like that, okay? And I think I said this before, I used to complain about the computer where I go, well, I go onto the computer and I go, give me a circle, it gives me a perfect circle. It doesn't do that thing where I'm thumbnail and I make a bad circle, but I go, oh, that looks kind of cool, and then I go with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
But the computer does have its own way of doing that, which is these kind of things where you can go, I want to try this and try that. I kind of know what it's going to do, but, you know, and I'm not going to sit there and waste all this time on it, but the more and more proficient you get with the tools in here, the more you can start just trying different things and going, okay, that looks kind of cool, but I think I need to push this part, you know, and it just kind of leads you around, right?
Yeah.
Even though you can see it looks a little richer now, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think I was just kind of comfortable with my idea, so I wasn't pushing this
Everybody
one as
is.
much, but I like these suggestions.
Usually I have an idea, then I go and execute it, and I go, okay, here's the basic idea, but now I got to push it and plus it, and, you know, really make it feel like finished. Okay.
Yeah. See how far you can take it before it obliterates it.
Yeah, yeah. And that's,
okay.
You know, I know this sounds old fartish to say this, but that's the beauty of digital is you can just experiment endlessly.
Yeah, totally. Way easier than oil.
Well, yeah, you know. And then, you know, another thing you can do is like when you're making, if any of you guys paint or whatever, once in a while, take like your palette. Sometimes if you're making a good palette, or a good painting, you got a nice palette. You know, it's like an abstract design of its own. You have those things like, you know, like those, whatever you call them, those palette sheets or whatever. Let it dry, scan it, and you can use it as overlay texture for things, right? Or, you know, create the back of something to start it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Or
scan like you did a cool watercolor wash. Go, ooh, I'm going to scan that before I go any further with it, and just put those things aside for, you know, one of the people that I always talk about in here, I don't think I have yet. And again, it's because this guy doesn't really have borders, which I like. Hang on.
I actually have a bunch of stuff of my own that I did in a Marshall's experimentation class where I just taking pictures of drops in water, like paint in water, floating, cloudy, splatters, all that kind of stuff. So I'll look into those too.
That stuff is a great start digitally. But the thing I like about this guy, and his name is Matt Mahurin, the monster illustrator. He's a monster everything. He he uses photographs, he uses his own illustrations, he uses his own painted backdrops. He mixes everything together. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, crazy.
And this guy, he's just a super creative dude. And the interesting thing, to the point that I'm always making about this overlap thing, is Matt Mahurin was a monster illustrator, okay? So he got a phone call when he was at Art Center still, and he was living basically in a closet. And back then, Time Magazine was one of the holy grails, Time Magazine and Newsweek. They called him up and he's in a studio, and they go, hey, we want you to do a cover, not an interior, the cover, okay?
Damn.
And he goes, really? And they're like, yeah. And he's like, what's it pay? And they go, 25. And he's like, $25? Right on, right? 25,000. Okay. And when they told him that, he said he practically fell over. He's like, are you kidding me? Right?
Right.
So anyway, he went on to have this huge career as an illustrator, traditional illustrator. Then he was one of the first guys to start using Photoshop as an illustration tool. Okay.
Okay.
Then he just kept getting bigger and bigger. All his clients are Rolling Stone, all the holy grails. And
Man.
and then he sort of got a little bit burned out. And I'm paraphrasing the story. You could probably look it up. And then he called up an art director and goes, hey, an art director, because now he had a lot of relationships with art directors. And he goes, hey, can you give me a photography assignment? He didn't know shit about photography, okay? But why could he do that? Because he has a great foundational, fundamental skill set in illustration. So he understands composition and shape and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
He bought a Hasselblad camera. And the guy said, yes, we're doing this thing on the Texas penal system. Gets on the plane. He buys a Hasselblad camera, gets on the plane, and those are difficult cameras. And, super high-end camera. Reads the instruction manual on the plane, goes and shoots this thing, and then it won, like, I don't know, a Pulitzer or something, right? So then he's off and running in a photography career, okay? Then he did the photography career for however long, and then I think it was, I can't remember the band, it was a huge band, came to him and goes, hey, it might have been you too. And they go, hey, we want you to do a video for us, because they liked his aesthetic. And he goes, as long as you let me hold the camera, I'll do it. And then he became a gigantic video, all the biggest bands, U2, Metallica, Garbage, I mean, all those gigantic bands of like the 90s or whatever. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
But the point being is, like, he doesn't limit himself. And he doesn't limit himself with his image making. And then one of the ones, hang on, and I know I'm on a tangent, but I think it's relevant.
Definitely.
And this tells you something about, okay, so this image here, actually, let's go back. And I would love for you guys to play with this kind of stuff. This image here of Freud, okay? You guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this was a big image at the time, which I think was in 93, okay? So Photoshop's barely around at this point, right?
Definitely.
Okay, so when he did this cover, it was a big deal. Kind of, everybody didn't really know how he did it or anything. But anyway, it was just a thing. And then he went to some conference or something, and he was talking about this, and this is how different the time was. And somebody in the audience goes, where'd you get that? Where'd you get a color picture of Freud? And he goes, Freud, that's me. And I manipulated it in Photoshop. The whole place got super pissed off, right? Because they go, that's disingenuous. You're not allowed to do that. And it's like, it's an illustration.
Says who? Yeah.
But you got to remember the time, this being able to photo manipulate in this way was kind of new, and it was a little bit feared because now you can alter photos, journalistic photos, and all that kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But that's him. This one's him, right? So, and the reason you do that, and then totally different style. This has got more paint in it, but it's also digitally manipulated, right? He's done a ton of stuff with Tom Waits, right? And then he has this really interesting photographic style. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so what I love about this is just Photoshop is sort of the common tool to go to bridge between traditional digital photography, digital painting, blah, 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 right?
Yes.
And he's a good guy to look into. I'll put a link to him on there. But anyway, one last thing, and then I'll leave you alone about this.
No worries. I'm enjoying it because I tend to get stuck in using Photoshop as a painting tool or a photography tool, but
It's an
not
everything tool.
mixing
That's
it.
what's cool about it.
Yeah, I gotta open up the floodgates and let them mix.
Yeah. By the way, the name of the song is Hell Broke Loose, Luce.
It hasn't broken me yet. I'm still having a good time.
Okay, so then he starts mixing. Hang on.
So, you need a logo. The obvious choice is going to Fiverr.
Let that play over. So then he starts mixing these things with like After Effects. Right?
Okay. Yeah, I could see it.
Hang on. See what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So some of these things are painted.
Totally.
Overlays right there. Very stylized.
Yeah, very.
Okay, does that make sense?
Definitely, it does.
Now he's mixing Photoshop, probably After Effects, probably Premiere, probably other stuff I'm not even aware of, painting, digital illustration, digital manipulation, and
Okay.
motion, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So point being, once you get done with this class, if I were you guys, I would take After Effects, and I would take Premiere.
Okay.
Because if you don't, you need to know. You don't want, you want to be free. And to be honest with you, if you know Photoshop, you're halfway home with Premiere and After Effects. Okay.
Okay.
So it gives you a base on something that when you go to Premiere or After Effects, you go, oh, it's just got layers the same way. It's got the same overlay chain things. It's got this. It's got that. I get all that from Photoshop. Only now I got a timeline. Okay. I just got to learn the timeline thing and some new tools and stuff. I learned Premiere like that. I mean, not that I know everything about it, but I learned it because I already knew Photoshop, right? Yes?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
It translates.
Okay, who else?
I uploaded one earlier, but I've been working on it right now.
Who was it, Ian? Okay.
Yeah,
Hang on, let me look.
you should have it.
Where it is. I got this one.
Yeah, I've just worked on it a little more right now. I just
Is this the one that we were talking about last time with the billboards and all that?
yeah. I just I added a lot more to it right now.
All right. I'll look at that one. Throw it up there.
Yeah, 1 second here. Where did it save to on my computer?
Nathan.
It's in there.
Is Nathan here? Oh, there he is.
Hello.
Do you feel pretty finished?
I feel like I could add some more lighting to mine. And the font on the bottom. I
That
tried
looks pretty good, though. What do you think?
to recreate like the movie. I think it's good. I feel like maybe the lighting because the water in the sky.
More light in the sky?
And the little writing on the bottom, you know that?
Okay, but do you feel like you got a handle on it?
Like I feel like I can do something with that. Like put it on.
You're cutting in and out for some reason.
Hello. Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, you were cutting in and out. But what I'm asking is, do you feel like you got a good handle on it?
Yeah.
Okay, because I think it looks pretty good.
Okay. Thank you.
I put the new one in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys got 41 things in the chat room?
We're just talking about download.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Putting the file. Mike,
Hmm?
I don't want to take up everyone's time, but if you had any suggestions about that montage one, I'd love to get an email or something too.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
That's the one I feel I'm struggling the most with, but don't worry about taking the time from everyone else. Thanks.
Okay, I'll look at it after class.
Cool. Yeah, take your time.
And then maybe
I'll
what I
work
might
on
do
all
is,
of them.
if I feel like I have enough to say about it, or sometimes I'll just do a quick overlay, just like I normally do, but I'll just send it to you.
I just want to make sure it's working. I'm trying some different things. I tried to throw some filter up there, but yeah, just any pointers would be great.
Okay, so let's go. I should have EN in here. Okay. 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 So it's making sense, like bending those into perspective and all that? Ian?
Sorry, I was muted. Sorry. Yeah, it's going pretty good. I was thinking of like trying to put the title in like the bottom left-hand corner, like to the right side.
Okay.
And then yeah, like
You got a great space over here for type because it's wide open right there.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. And then like I have the two shots of the main characters like both in the car, like the overlay on top of them, and then like the reflection of the other car just landed on the character to the left. I thought that looked pretty nice, so I kept it. That like 6 right there. And then on the other part, that's like the building, and then it's all just like the billboard like clip of him, and then like other shots from the movie there, and then in the top like right corner too. I just need to like kind of blend them in a little better.
Is there going to be any more information here?
Yeah, that whole side, that whole like I guess like left fifth, I would put like the title and everything. I'm thinking because that's that open space right there.
The only thing I'd say is maybe somewhere, and I don't know, because you could keep the whole thing subdued, but I might come in here on one or two of the, maybe one. It just depends on the hierarchy of information, what you want me to look at first, second, third read, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So I might play around coming in here and going, you know, do I saturate maybe one more?
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe give it a little more of a pop, just so I have a hierarchy of information. Right now, everything's sort of at the same level of value, more or less, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So just think about that. I put the titles in and stuff before I mess with that.
Okay.
And then I might just go, okay, I like this one here. Oh, that's there, okay. Maybe under here, maybe that's where I go. It's too much, it's not working. Maybe if I go lighter, no. Now, another thing, by the way, if I just wanted to saturate one thing like here, because that was saturating the whole layer, which I don't want. And of course, I have to go find this again because I don't know where all my stuff is anymore. I think it's here. Yeah, there it is. I could go to the sponge tool right up here. It says saturate, which is fine. Right now it's at 100, which is probably a lot, but that's okay. I'm just going to come in here and go, I could just come in here and pick something and saturate it just that thing by painting on it with the sponge tool on saturate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. What's this
like that,
sponge?
Where you don't want to saturate the whole layer, you just want to saturate a little section, you can do that.
Gotcha. So it's like is that like the normal purpose of the sponge tool for that? Okay.
Well, you can do either or. So I could go here, saturate, or I can go desaturate, and then it has the opposite effect where it'll take the color out.
Cool. Awesome.
And it's a really handy tool. Okay.
Definitely.
So, you know, again, sometimes we get lucky and we can just saturate the whole layer, and that's fine. Or like when I just did it, I went and saturate the whole layer. That doesn't look good. I just want the face saturated. So maybe I'll just go in there and do that. Okay.
Definitely.
And I'm just going to try something real quick here just because I'm curious. I've never done this before. I'm just going to see. I want to get a color because I just want to see what this does. And maybe I want to get a warm color. Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
So what that's doing is now, if you notice, you have the same, here's your overlays on a layer, okay?
Yeah.
You have the same overlays up here on the brush, which means that I can do those overlay effects with my painting tool and only where I want it. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so what color dodge does is, remember we have the
Yeah,
dodge
that
tool
makes
that
sense.
just makes things lighter, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
What the color dodge tool does, and I have to do it on here, not on the layer. What that does is, and here's my opacity. Hang on. Here's my opacity. The color dodge thing lightens it up with whatever the foreground color is. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Super
Gotcha.
handy tool, and we'll get into it more later. But you
Yeah.
can see I can just paint part of his face with it. I could change up the color. You know, come back down here to a cool color.
So you could like keep the same color and like kind of like make the whole like lighting of it like
it just lightens it up with the foreground color.
Gotcha.
Instead of being like the regular dodge tool, which just lightens it up, because that sometimes it just washes it out when it does that. Sometimes I can use a little bit of that color dodge overlay in my brush to sort of give it a little color and paint into it. Okay.
Definitely.
So it just gives you a little more targeted tool set. Okay.
Sounds good.
But I think you're doing a good job on it.
Awesome.
Now, when you go and look at, hopefully you're already doing this, and you see movie posters, you go, overlay, blah, 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 filter,
Yeah.
dodge and burn, color dodge. You just start seeing it, you know?
Yeah. No, I definitely have. More like Instagram ads, like shitty product placement. Like you can just see like reflection tool and stuff like that.
Yeah, right. That's you. And by the way, let yourself do that. Let yourself be hypercritical of that thing, especially if you guys are hanging around with other, because if you do this with normal people, they don't know what you're talking about and they don't care. But if you're hanging around with other designer friends or students or whatever, let yourself do that. Let yourself critique the hell out of everything. You know, look at that packaging, man. That doesn't work, or that does work. Or wow, that's really cool. Or if you go to a theme park or something like that, look at the sight lines and go, these sight lines don't work at all, man. Like, look I can see the trash cans over there. Like, I look over here and I'm in medieval Europe and, oh, wait a minute, there's a trash can maintenance yard right there. That just ruined everything.
Yeah.
All I had to do was just put a couple of trees there and landscape it, and it would have kept me in my world. That's all design. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Critique everything, you know, and just try and do it in your head. I mean, you'll get where you can't help it. But when you have other friends,
I'm already there. Yeah.
Yeah. When you have friends that you can hang out with, and most of you guys do, critique things, and not just negatively, positively. Man, like, man, that works really good. Catalog it. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who else? Have I gone through them already? Oh wait. Is Jem in here? I see your name right there. Yes, no? Okay, it's the second time.
Oh, hello. Oh, sorry.
What was that?
So yeah, so I need to, log in through my phone to talk.
Oh, okay.
Last class.
Okay, one thing I would do here, and I just gave you guys those smudge tools. It might fix this, or not fix it, but alter it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which one. Okay, you got that. Okay, there. Now you probably have to do this before you do your overlays, but that's fine. And there's a bunch of ways to do this, but one way is I could go here to my smudge tools. And I'm going to go to this one. That's where I usually start. And there's a couple things I can do here. So I'm going to soften this edge. You see, you understand why we're doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to make it kind of come into the background a little better. And I don't want to do it everywhere. Like where it's breaking right here is fine. Now another thing is, let's go back. Let's go back. Let me go to history. Just to make sure. I'm going to go all the way back to the front or the top. There's a tool here that we haven't talked about. It's under your layers. So I'm going to select this dog. And I'm going to go layer. And I'm going to go down here to matting. Okay? Now we're talking about layers having fringe on them. This looks like it has a little bit of white fringe. Can you guys see that right there?
Yep.
So let's try this. I'm going to go to layer, matting, and go remove white matte. And see how I got rid of a lot of it?
Yeah.
Now, another thing you can do is go layer, then it could remove black fringe, white fringe. I'm going to just go defringe. That's a little bit. Now, another thing I could do is what we did before. Oh, by the way, I'm going to put up a video that is actually, I just found it. I thought I had it. It's a lecture on modifying selections, which we talked about last week. So you don't have to do anything on that. I'm just putting up more information in it. Okay? Does that make sense? Another thing I can do is I can command click this little thumbnail. Oops. Why is that not selected? Hang on. For some reason, it's not selecting, and I don't.
Are you on the transform mic?
No. Wait a minute. It's over here. Hang on. I have two windows, so it screws me up. Okay, so the defringe right here, I could have said, let's say 3. I could go, okay. And see how I got rid of some more of the fringe? And then I might go in now with my smudge tool and kind of soften some of this stuff up. Okay, and then like here, it's a very hard edge. I'm going to soften that edge up a little. Soften all this up. I might even come back here with a little simpler smudge tool and just pull out individual hairs a little bit. So it looks like, why am I pulling out the individual hairs here and there? Because then it starts to overlap the background and not look like it's cut out of the background. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Actually, that was gonna be my question. Like overall, it still is like more of a collage than you know how in Photoshop, like you put everything together and then you like adjust the lighting and then the colors and all of that.
Well, one thing I might do,
So
one thing I might try first right off the bat is I'm going to go to my eyedropper tool and I'm going to pick this blue, this lighter blue. Because I'm going to probably, and then I'm going to go, I'm going to make a layer over all this. And then I want to select the dog. And then maybe I'm going to come in here and just go, and I have to experiment usually a little bit with this. This brush is too big. Let's get rid of this. I'm going to take this brush. The opacity's down pretty low. I'm going to put it up to about 37. And then I'm going to try and see if I can start to, and again, it'll probably be an overlay thing. I'm going to go all the way up. And I'm doing this pretty half-assed. Now, the reason I'm picking top-facing planes is because the blue is up above him, okay? And then I might, again, go through my layers. And I may or may not find one. Damn. Okay, so that's telling me that's going opposite. Divide's going opposite, so I might try something here in a minute. I want to try something here.
Maybe you could turn off the gradient I put on the dog, which was kind of bad and purplish.
Hang on now, let me see if I can. I'm gonna see if I can get this to go. So I'm adjusting it now with the overlay on it. And I'm trying to dial in a little bit of a blue, which I can't quite get. But I would dial in, it's starting to get a little bluer. The reason I want to do that is I want to get some of this light up in the sky reflecting on the dog, okay? Because that's going to help you get softening the edges, and don't soften all the edges too much or then it gets all airbrushy looking. Just start softening a little bit where it starts to flow into the background a little more. And then the second part of that equation is to get some of the ambient light bouncing into your subject matter. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if I cool him down, especially in this case on the top facing planes, right? My hand is facing this way, it'd be a top plane, because the blue is going to affect the top, like top of his snout, you know, and I can do things like that. The other thing I might do in this, because he's, you know, he's big, right? So I might see if I can go, and I don't know, maybe I can do it here. Oops, I'm on the wrong layer, hang on. Might lighten him up a little bit. I might put a layer over him. Let's try this. I'm gonna make a new layer. Again, I'm gonna take the same color and I'm gonna fill it. Because I want to cool him off a little bit, or her, whatever it is. Because it's in this cool environment. A little better, that's a little better. And then maybe pull this back a little bit. And see how just giving it that bluish overlay starts to pull it into the same environment? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that helped quite a bit, actually. So then let's go. Now, another thing I might do is do this. Because now I'm dealing with all this stuff in an environment. I've got to kind of make it work. You know. So I'm going to get this. I'm pulling an image, that's what I'm doing.
Uh-oh.
What? Are we all right?
You cut off.
You were frozen for a minute.
For a second, but
I'm okay now, right?
Yep.
So far, yeah.
Okay, hang on. So I'm going to go. I want this, damn it. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go. I want to make this more dramatic. Okay, this is good right here. Now, hang on. I'm going to use this. I'm going to use my object selection tool. Thinking. Okay, there we go. So it's a bad selection. I'm going to do this. I'll show you guys this later. Or maybe I'll show it to you today. I don't know. This is a bad selection. I don't have time to fix it right now, but. Oops. No. Close enough for now. Not a good selection, so what? All right, so there's my, I'm gonna put this, I don't know, somewhere. Because then I can maybe come in here and go, I'd have to alter this. I'm just gonna go with the same light for now. No good. Go to color to transparent. And I could start to put, you know, a couple of helicopters with some, and then I put a point source on this. I put, actually, let's blur it a little bit. You know, I could try an overlay. You guys can hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay. I might try an overlay because I just usually do. That's not too bad. Probably pull it back a little. And then I give it a point source, which would be where the lights comes from. I might give it, you know, one of those red lights they always have on them. Blah, blah, blah. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And it just gets a little more dramatic, okay? I could probably, that's fine. I'd probably give his nose a little shine on top with reflecting some of this light up here, or maybe even this light. That gives me an excuse to, you know, highlight his nose a little bit, so on and so forth. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So what we're trying to do is color-wise and edge-wise pull all these things into the same environment and stop, and so they don't feel so much like a. One of the things, by the way, if you look at, and I never saw the movie, but I saw the trailers for it when they made, I think it was the last Godzilla movie. I don't know which one it was. That one of the smart things they did in the design of that is that creature or whatever is monstrously big, right? Almost every shot of it, if you ever notice in that movie, it's getting seen through heavy atmosphere. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That makes it feel bigger. You know, if something's so big, it's got its own atmosphere, that's scary. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And that's what you want to do with that. You know, a little bit of that blue light, knock the saturation and opacity down a hair, like that kind of stuff. So it goes back into the distance a little bit. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you. I actually tried to get the background air lines like towards the dog, but you're right. I also need to get the other elements to get that effect.
I'd also probably light up some of these windows too, just here and there. Right? I'd light up these lamps, and that I could just do on its own layer if I want. And I could just go, I don't know. I'm just gonna do this. Let's go and fill it. Oops, I don't want both. Let's go here. Let's go to here. I need an orange, so let's go here. Pull it down to an orange. There. I'm going to do a third one. This is yellow. This should be a warm yellow, but that's more of a cool yellow, which I hate, but who cares? And then I'm going to go up to blur. Now it depends on how warm this light is. Probably like that. I could come in here and start lightening up. Needs a little more yellow in there. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Needs more yellow. Hang on. Yeah, more like that. There, that's better. And then if it's really hot, I might give it a nice point source right in the front or right in the middle. Like that. A little too big. More like that. Something like that. Okay, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then I might smudge that out so it doesn't feel so circular. Okay. All right, who else? Is everybody okay? You are,
Can
that's
you
fine.
can
Huh?
you look at mine, Mike?
No. That's where I draw the line. Okay, they're getting, what I might do,
Yeah.
I might continue this cloud idea and have them just sort of coming out of the clouds, because then I got a built-in thing to sort of obscure how they trail in, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I'm working on it right now.
Okay, and then like, okay, so wait a second. Where's those clouds at?
It's actually it was like a mixed mash of it's like a really kind of like a two trimmed picture, so I had to use some stamp tools to kind of merge them together. But I probably would like do another layer where I'm gonna stamp some more clouds in there and slowly paint it in. So
Yeah, because you're gonna have, like, you could just start with just getting a, I would probably, where's this one at? Hang on. I'm gonna flatten this, even though I know I shouldn't do that.
okay.
But I'm just gonna do it because it'll make it easier for me to select something.
Yeah, sure.
And maybe I'm gonna go, and I might do it this way, I might do it another way. So let's just say I take that, and I go CD, and then let's click this. So it's got it's got an open spot. That's kind of screwing me up here a little bit. That's weird. Why is it doing that? Hang on, I'm gonna do this one more time.
Okay.
Because it should, this is flattened, so it should just be picking this as its own thing. I'm gonna flatten over the background too.
Yeah, you can do that too. Maybe that might help, hopefully.
I don't know how it's picking that. I don't know how it's picking that up. That's weird. It shouldn't be. But anyway, so let's say that that was correct, that I had a good selection, right? And then I'm putting it in front of things. So, you know, I could just come in here and get rid of some of this. Put this on a real low opacity. Too much. Oops. Oh, that's why. That's underneath it. I keep thinking that's part of this. Okay. But I might go, okay, I got this in front now. And again, I might come here. Hang on. Oops. You know, I'd probably erase out that little bit of fringe on there.
Yeah.
And again, I might just come in here and kind of soften up this edge a little bit, because then it's not going to feel cut out, right?
Yeah.
And I'm doing it real ham-fisted, but you know, you'd be a little more finessey about it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But that way I can get a nice soft cloud edge in front of these shapes for where it fades off. See that?
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking at a lot of Drew Struzan for inspiration. So
yeah.
Yeah. So I think just adding a bit of clouds between just like the icons and the artist kind of will help merge it a little bit better, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just these tricks of like, and Struzan's a good one to look at. Like he'll do that thing where, like we were looking at, where he'll have his montage, and then maybe the the owl's wing comes over and covers the transition out of a person. So that's one way he transitions.
Yeah.
Another way it might just be smoke in front of it like this. Then it goes down to the bottom and he's like, okay, I got this stuff kind of ending right here. How do I end it? And he's got like a train coming around a curve and a couple guys on horseback and they spill into the foreground. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
I was looking at his American Tail one and his Back to the Future
Yeah, they're great.
posters, and he used a lot of like the glow kind of the lighting helps fade it out, so I'm gonna try to do that.
If you go and you look at him, because he was master of montage, and we really get to master of montage, two things to come to mind to me: size relationships and transitions, right?
Yeah.
So things can't just end. Things
Yeah.
have to, you know, and if you go look at Struzen, there's 50 ways he does that.
Yeah.
Not always just a fade into something else. It's like I said, it might be something in front of something. You know, he's got a plane tilting into the thing and the wing cuts in front of something that cuts that off and finishes that idea. He's great at it. Okay.
Yeah.
And he's a great guy to look at and go, I need an idea for that. Go look at it. I mean, he didn't invent it. He just mastered it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, it's not like Bob Peak and all the other greats before him didn't do the same thing. It's just that Struzen, you know, he perfected.
He made it his own thing, pretty much.
And he made that technique his own thing. Where every time I see somebody do acrylic, airbrush, and pencil, I go, "You ain't Drew Struzen." You know what I mean? And it's not that they're not great, but it's just like as soon as I see that, it's too evocative of him, and he kind of owns it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and all you can think about is that's Drew Struzen and not yours. So
there's a guy named Mike Buckus who does a lot of airbrush and pencil stuff, and his stuff feels like his own. You know, but
okay,
I mean,
that's good.
A great draftsman. I mean, he's amazing. You know. Okay, does that all make sense? It's all gotta flow, right?
Yeah.
So you got working on that. You got this kind of triangular dynamic. What do we call that? Diagonal. Make them all flow, right? And then and they're flowing out of this box thing. So I like the idea of them flowing out of something. Which one were you looking at? You said which two Drew Struzen posters?
American Tail and Back to the Future, but it was mostly for lighting. He didn't do a lot of montage with that one, but I might have to look at more montage posters of his.
Here's a good one to look at. Hang on.
But so far I'm on the right track, Mike.
Yeah. You got a good idea. You just got to execute it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, here we go. Hang on. Look at this one. Hang on. Because everything in this one is coming out of this little idea.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, okay, got it. It's coming from the lamp. Yeah.
Now here's another good one we were talking about earlier with finishing off the bottom with the scene, like we were talking about with the Western. It's the same idea. And then look at these great borders he does. Like he does this arabesque bordery kind of thing here.
Yeah.
with a little softness around. I mean, it's just, you know. Then he finished this pretty hard edge with that carpet. And then look, big triangular composition. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, he's, you know, and the thing with these things, like, if you go and you copy a guy's composition, that's bullshit. But if you go and look at somebody's stuff and you go, oh, that's kind of a cool idea. No, it's not. He didn't invent that. You know what I mean? It's a compositional tool. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Yeah.
So I also wonder, like, does it need these lights coming out, or do these now become part of the smoke, and maybe the smoke's getting lit from the bottom, you know? You ever seen smoke?
Can you, sorry, can you repeat that again, Mike?
Maybe it's the smoke that's getting lit and you don't need the streams of light. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay. Can you give me a quick demonstration of that?
Sure. Look, here's one thing. Because I always love this, the way this looks. Sorry, my
Is he frozen on your end, guys? Oh, no, never mind.
no. Hang on. The mistake people make with smoke is they think it's just like black or whatever. And like, I love this. I know this sounds terrible because it's super destructive, but I love smoke when it does this. When the light of it lights up the bottom of it. You see that?
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
And
Okay.
what's super cool is that when it goes up towards this part, this all catches the blue of the sky. See that?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Now, I was going to talk about this anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this. This is right by my house, right? By the way, just burned down like 2 weeks ago.
Oh no.
It's a gigantic. I just went by it the other day. It's bitching. It looks like a post-apocalyptic because it's huge. I mean, these Amazon factories are gigantic. They're like a mile wide or whatever. Hang on. I've lost my zoom off. There we go. Okay. Okay. Does anybody else have questions?
Thanks, Mike, for that.
Hello?
Sheena.
Yes. I have a question. I just want to know if there's anything that I can add to my poster. And
Oh, I saw yours. I think basically. Oh, you added this guy up here in this like horizon, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I like that. It's nice and soft. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, is this all making sense? It looks like it. Yeah?
Yeah. Because I do notice that a lot of other posters have like the montage style, and my poster doesn't really accomplish any of those things. So is there anything that I can do on the side to learn a skill that I couldn't accomplish in this poster?
Were you trying to go for a montaging thing?
I wasn't, but I do see that that's something that, is there that I haven't like really learned.
I think you kind of are. I mean, I get what you're saying. But I think your design works for what you're doing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I like the solution
Yeah.
here. This feels logical to me. This feels really natural, this edge. It's really nice. I mean, I think it's a finished idea. If you want to do a montagey thing, I would just take, well, I mean, you could put some faces in the background, because that's what they usually do. They put the big actor in the background and whoever. And you could play around with that if you want to do that. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, like something to do on the side so I could like learn that skill as well.
Okay, let me think about that, and then we can talk about it, and I'll kind of go over it with you. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like this is finished.
Okay.
All right. And by the way, I was thinking about this today. We talked about this, why we wouldn't use the outer glow. One of the reasons might be if I want to vary this color. Like if I want to come in here and go, okay, over here it goes reddish. Who cares? I could paint into this. By the way, let's look at this. Instead of making this a selection, I could make that a selection, or I could go right here where it says lock, and what that's saying is lock transparent pixels, which means anything that's not the object that's just transparent around it will get locked off. So I'm going to lock this off, and then I'm going to go to my brush, get a soft brush. I don't need color dodge right now. That's fine. And if I wanted to come in here, it's going to be way screaming loud. And I wanted to just paint, part of it where it shifted color. That's how I could do it. So you can see it's just locking off the transparent pixels and only letting me paint on the object. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And all that is, and then once you're done with that, make sure you turn it back off, because otherwise you're not going to be able to paint on anything transparent. Okay. And that's one of the reasons you wouldn't use your own object. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah. I was only selecting the earth. I didn't like inverse select or something. And I was like so confused for the longest time because I thought that
You're cutting in and out. Hey, you guys, I'm not cutting out, right?
yes.
John, am I cutting out?
No, but I think she was talking, so I don't think you heard her.
No, she was cutting out on me, but I want to make sure I'm not cutting out.
No, not anymore.
Okay. Okay, does that make sense, Sheena?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, this is done. Don't worry about this. We can talk about the other thing, and that's fine.
Okay.
And you guys saw that I put the assignment up for tomorrow, right? Okay, it's always going to be the same thing. Midnight, the day it's due. I give you till midnight. That way, if you have a couple more questions in class, get them up on time, and you can always improve them later. Like if you put up the, I don't really like this very much. If you get it in there on time, you can improve it and move it up to, I mean, you can move it up to an A. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, so what I was going to talk about here real quick, and actually we can talk about it. I'm just going to, okay, so what we're just going to start with ELAN. If I wanted to come in here, I'm going to go with grayscale right now. You guys can hear me, right? Okay. So if I want to do this smoke thing, another way you can do it so I'm just making a shape, okay? Which is going to be my smoke shape. And then I'm going to go to a lighter value and maybe get a little blue in it. And then maybe I'll add in a little bit of that warmth that we talked about. Then I'm going to go up here again to my smudge brush. Make a little bigger one. I'm going to start thinking about my edges here. I want a variety of edges, okay? And then up here, it's going to dissipate. And then I would just go back and forth. So I'd paint stuff in, paint stuff out. Then I'm also going to switch here and get a different edge. So I'm going to go to just add water, which gives me a really soft edge. And as it gets up here and dissipates, I'll give it a softer edge because it's dissipating. It's going up into the sky and falling, you know, getting smokier. Hang on. Is that starting to make sense? And Elan, does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
And then I would go back and forth. I would come in here and probably go, okay, I need a little darker value in here. I want to break it up a little bit. Maybe I'll go to a darker value altogether. I want to get too dark.
Just to show more dimension to the smoke.
Yeah. So the top usually getting lit a little bit by the sky. And then again, I'm going to go back here again. And I don't want everything too soft. So one of the things I use a lot is this one because it breaks up the edge in a nice way. And this will become more important later, okay? But I'm just kind of showing you some of the things you can do with the smudge tool, right?
Looks good. Yeah, thank you.
And you can do the same thing right? And then my fire would be down here. If something's on fire, maybe it's the building or whatever. And then again, I can go a little more orange. And again, back to my smudge. And I'd start incorporating this into the flame, I'd have to sort of flame this out a little bit, back and forth. And I could have that on the top of my building and so on and so forth. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You can do the same thing with a nice way to do this. Hang on. Oops. I lost it. Hang on. Let's just do blue. Actually, let's do this. You can do the same thing. Oh, there's one. Value, John. That's one big thing on this. You there?
Yes.
So one thing is, if you notice, they're all sort of the same value.
Okay.
The other thing I would do is I would play warm, cool in here. Right?
Okay.
So I might find a way to light, maybe, because everything's kind of cool, I might do a little subtle warm light on the right side or left side or whatever of their faces and stuff like that, right?
Okay, a little dynamic lighting.
Yeah, you'll see that over and over and over again because it works. Okay?
Do you mind the overlay over the words at the bottom, like the chain and the hand coming at you? Or is
The
that
chain to me has to have more dimension.
no
It really feels like it's coming forward, I guess.
placement?
Right?
Yeah, it was supposed to a little, but
I think
it's coming towards you like the guy.
Again, if I come in here and I go, hang on. And I can, there's a bunch of ways you can do it, but one easy way is I'd have to give it, like if this stuff, was getting lit on one side with a nice warm light, that's going to pop it a little bit. These guys could get lit, and I'd have to blend this, with an overlay, however I want to do it, right?
Yeah, make it look nice.
Yeah, so this, starts to come in here, and this stuff starts to get a little bit of a warm, bounced light in there. It's going to start to turn it a little bit.
Okay,
make sense?
Makes total sense. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's again, it's like it's funny because sometimes I get people, and I get it if people want to do something different, that's fine. But I go, if you go look at this stuff, you'll see these sort of things done over and over again. I mean, and forget concept art, go all the way back to wherever you want to go back to, and they were using the same thing, man. They were using these foreground trees overhanging the foreground to push everything back, warm, cool, blah 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 blah. They're always in the same stuff. Okay. It's just that modern people use it, like really push it. Okay, there was a couple things I wanted to go over. I'll show you that cloud thing tomorrow. It's very similar to what I just did with smoke. Hang on. So let's go. Okay, so one thing I want you guys to just start thinking about, because we're going to talk about this much more tomorrow. See when I make this layer mask, you guys see it right there? Yeah? Okay. Where is it storing that? And where it's storing it is in here in your channels, okay? So let's get rid of this for a minute. Okay, so what we have here is our RGB color channels. Does that make sense? And what that is RGB is red, green, blue, right? So there's a channel for red, there's a channel for green, and there's a channel for blue, okay? You put them together, you get that. I had a continuous tone image, let's pull a continuous tone image. That'll make more sense. So let's go. Let's go. And there it is, okay? That's cutting off the red, cutting off the green, it goes to black and white, blue, so on and so forth, okay? So you've got a color channel for every, if you got CMYK, it'll be 4 channels, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Does that make sense, you guys? All you need to know right now is that that's where it stores the color information. It breaks it down into, if it's 4-color process, it breaks it down to 4-color. It's 3-color with RGB, it breaks down 3. But you also need to know is that when you make something, and we'll start talking about this much more tomorrow, when you make something like a layer mask, that's where it stores it, and it makes an alpha channel. It's called an alpha channel, and that's where it stores that information. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I just want you to know that for now, okay? Okay, another thing, I'm gonna put up a video after class, and it's gonna be about what we're gonna talk about tomorrow, okay? And if you have any more leftover stuff with your posters, that's fine, we can go over that a little bit. But we're gonna start going over this other thing tomorrow. There's one thing in that video, I would suggest you run through it once. It's probably only about 15, 20 minutes, and then do it. But there's a part in there where I'm using a black brush or a white brush to paint out one or the other. It'll make sense when you see it. That brush is on overlay, and I'll talk about it, but I don't talk about it right off the bat. So look at it. And the reason you do that is that, and I always forget which way it goes. Well, if I'm using black and I'm painting out the black, it won't paint onto the white if I'm using overlay. And white, vice versa. White won't paint onto black. It'll make sense in the video. Does that make sense? Yes? No? Okay. So I just want to put that out there because I don't say it. It's from a lecture, but it should be pretty clear. I'm also going to put the image I used, and then I'll probably even put a sunset image in there, and that also makes sense. I want you to go over that by tomorrow, okay? Oh, okay. So and as we start getting into, we're going to start getting more into brushes and stuff. One thing I want you to be aware of is with Photoshop, because it didn't used to do this. If I go to my brushes, okay, you guys see my brushes, right? Yeah? Okay, good. There's a brush palette in there, but I'm just going to use this for now. If you look in, let's look in the general brushes here. These are all just general brushes. They don't have an icon. Let's go to dry media. Okay, so let's find. Okay, so like this one, if you look right here, can you guys hear me? Okay, if you guys look right here, there's an icon there. And what that's telling you is that this is an eraser. You're probably not going to be able to assign anything else to it. Like a lot of brushes that don't have that image, I can assign that brush as an eraser. That will make sense later as we're moving forward, okay? But some of them are going to be, like these are smudge brushes. See the little smudge icon? That's all they are, okay? You can't assign a brush to them. These you can assign different things to because they're just a brush icon. I'm trying to find some of them. I don't have any here. Hang on. Some of them will have a little water drop next to it. It's weird I can't find them. They're usually all over the place. Because most of these are my favorite brushes, so it's probably what. Like this one. This one right here has a little water droplet next to it. That means it's a mixer brush, okay? So I just want you to remember that this little icon right here, because sometimes you'll go, I want to make that an eraser, I want to make it this, and it won't do it. It's because they're assigned to a specific task, okay? Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
Also, when we get down the line, because, you know, we'll, I'm plotting everything out. So tomorrow we're going to talk about the selection stuff. Then I'm going to go into another exercise. Yeah, and then I got a couple things we'll get past that are simple exercises, and then we'll just keep building. I think by next week we're going to be doing some really interesting stuff. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
So that one is just a visual thing, and then I'm going to put the video up of my lecture about the other thing. That should make sense. You'll see it's a really another valuable selection tool. And if you notice, we're spending a lot of time talking about selections because if you can't select things, you're kind of screwed, period. Okay? And again, you need to have a variety of tools to do things. If one thing doesn't, like I was just doing the overlay thing with the dog trying to get that blue light to work, and it just wasn't working, so I probably have to do a different take on it. Okay?
Yes.
All I want by tomorrow is that you're finished with your poster, okay? I will put a folder up for it, but if you need to talk about it in class, it's fine. It's not due till midnight tomorrow, okay? Oh, wait a minute. And I'm not giving you any other homework, except I want you to watch that video. And, you know, if you can go through it, great. I think you will. I think it's pretty straightforward. Hang on. Okay, so I'm keeping track of who's late and all that now, okay? I've got 14 listed. Oh, whatever, I don't know what that is. Hang on. Okay. Does that all make sense, you guys?
Yeah.
I will do my usual number. I will edit this video. I will put it up. I'll put a link to Matt Mahurin. And I will put a folder up for the final for tomorrow. And the usual folder for any work. So there's going to be two folders. There's going to be a final folder for your poster. And by the way, do a save as and save it as a JPEG. Don't give me the PSD file. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, you guys?
You cut out, Mike.
Don't give me a PSD. Do a save as and save it as a JPEG. Yeah?
Okay.
I don't want a layered file for your final, okay? If you, hang on. If you want to talk about it in class, that's fine. You can give me the PSD file and upload the other one later. The file name is your name as it appears on my roster, okay? Okay. Go ahead. Oh, you gonna say something, Elan?
Oh, no, I was just going to say I agree. Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad you agree. I think that's it, okay? So tomorrow we're going to start this other thing. We'll roll through that. And the next day, probably another thing. We'll roll through that pretty quick. They should both be pretty quick. And we'll see where we're at on Thursday. And by next week, I want to be into some, and I've got to create some stuff for this, some fairly, you know, start to get into some kind of fun stuff, okay?
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, guys, so get your poster done, and then tomorrow we can move on, okay?
Yeah. Bye.
Hey, thank you.
All right, I'll see you guys in the morning.
Bye, Mike.
Thanks.